In the aftermath of one of the most painful losses of the Cleveland Browns' already rough season, a clear and uncomfortable contrast showed up fast. It came down to the rookie quarterback versus the coaching staff that's supposed to be shaping his future. Shedeur Sanders was coming off a nightmare game, 3 interceptions, ugly stats, and a performance most quarterbacks would want erased from memory. Instead of hiding, Sanders stepped to the podium and owned every bit of it. No excuses, no blame tossed around, no pointing fingers at teammates, coaches, or bad luck. Just straight accountability from a young quarterback who clearly understands that when things go wrong, it starts with him. At the same time, head coach Kevin Stefanski was leaning into talk about progress and normal growing pains, comments that felt completely detached from what just happened on the field. That contrast said a lot. Sanders brought brutal honesty, while the coaching staff leaned on safe, polished language. It made one thing clear: the rookie looked more locked in on reality than the people running the show. That 31-3 final score wasn't just a bad loss, it was a full-blown organizational collapse. Both sides of the ball fell apart, leaving Browns fans stunned at how a team that looked competent one week could look completely lost the next. For Shedeur Sanders, the stat line was harsh and impossible to dress up: 18 completions on 35 attempts for only 177 yards. 0 touchdowns, 3 interceptions that flipped momentum and handed the Bears short fields and easy points. Add 5 sacks for 35 lost yards, wiping out multiple scoring chances, and it paints a grim picture. This wasn't just a quarterback having a rough afternoon. These were the numbers of a quarterback fighting just to stay afloat behind an offensive line that couldn't protect him and within a system that failed to help him succeed. The wild ups and downs of Sanders' young career showed up again, and this swing was extreme. Just 1 week earlier against the Tennessee Titans, Sanders delivered what many called his best pro performance yet. He showed arm talent, smart decision making, and real poise, the exact traits that made him a highly valued prospect coming out of Colorado. There were throws that flashed real promise, and moments that suggested the offense was finally starting to click. Even though the Browns still lost that Titans game, it wasn't alarming. Sometimes you play well and still come up short. That happens in football, but the sharp drop from that performance to this disaster against Chicago raises real concerns about consistency, preparation, and whether the Browns truly know how to develop their franchise quarterback. How does a player swing from his best game to one of his worst in just 7 days? What changed? What broke? What went wrong behind the scenes? These are the questions the Browns should be losing sleep over before Sanders' confidence takes a real hit from these wild swings in performance and results. When Sanders spoke to reporters, his response showed maturity and self-awareness well beyond his experience level. Asked to evaluate his game against the Bears, he smiled and gave an answer that was direct, honest, and refreshing. He kept it simple and didn't try to dress it up. Sanders said they took a loss, so that meant he didn't play well, and that was the end of it. No long explanations, no breaking down every snap or hiding behind numbers. Just a clear statement that when the team loses, the quarterback didn't do enough. That's leadership. That's accountability. That's exactly the mindset you want from a franchise quarterback, especially on a day when it would have been easy to point at protection issues, play calling, or missed opportunities around him. The contrast between Sanders' blunt self-critique and Kevin Stefanski's post-game talk about progress and normal growing pains couldn't have been clearer. Sanders knows excuses don't win games. He understands that playing quarterback means taking praise when things go right and taking heat when things fall apart, whether it's fair or not. Stefanski, meanwhile, seemed far more focused on shielding Sanders' confidence than digging into what actually went wrong and demanding better across the board. There's nothing wrong with encouragement and confidence building, but when that approach replaces honest evaluation, it becomes a problem. Sanders openly admitted he's still learning and processing the game at this level, and that kind of awareness matters. He acknowledged there's always something to fix, always room to improve. That mindset separates quarterbacks who eventually figure it out from the ones who disappear quietly. Sanders isn't pretending he's already arrived. He's not brushing off mistakes or acting like the bad moments don't matter. He knows this position is complex, demanding, and unforgiving, and he's choosing to embrace the process even when it hurts, like it did in Chicago. Even in an ugly performance, there were flashes that explained why scouts believed in him. The 47-yard completion to Isaiah Bond showed real arm strength and confidence pushing the ball downfield. That throw required timing, accuracy, and trust, qualities you can't coach into someone. Sanders also showed mobility, picking up 24 rushing yards and converting a key first down on a designed run. Those moments don't erase the struggles, but they remind everyone why Cleveland invested so heavily in him in the first place. The tools are there, even if the consistency isn't yet. His reaction after the game said just as much as his play. Sanders praised the Bears' defense and talked about how much he valued the challenge they presented. He didn't complain about getting overwhelmed or blame Chicago's schemes. Instead, he respected the opponent and framed the experience as another lesson, a response that showed maturity well beyond his experience level. That mindset right there is what separates real competitors from everyone else. The ability to face adversity head on and treat tough moments as learning opportunities instead of excuses says a lot. Sanders talking about wanting to study the film and understand exactly how things went wrong shows he's serious about getting better, not just talking about it. Film study is where quarterbacks truly grow. It's where the game slows down, where missed reads become obvious, and where defensive patterns start to make sense. Sanders openly leaning into that process, even knowing how uncomfortable it will be after a game like this, shows discipline and commitment that can't be faked. One of the most revealing moments of Sanders' press conference came when he was asked about the Jerry Jeudy drop that turned into an interception. This was the perfect chance to shift blame, to quietly protect his stat line, and to point out that one of those interceptions shouldn't really be on him. Many young quarterbacks would have taken that opening without hesitation. Instead, Sanders shut it down. He calmly said drops happen in football, made it clear he's not the type to pile on a teammate, and pointed out that Jeudy already knows how big that moment was and is probably tougher on himself than anyone else. That response speaks volumes. Sanders took the interception on the stat sheet even though it wasn't truly his fault, shielded his teammate from extra criticism, and showed a team-first mentality that builds trust inside a locker room. That kind of loyalty isn't something you coach, it's part of who a player is. Backing teammates no matter what creates real chemistry. It builds belief, accountability, and respect. Sanders clearly understands that leadership isn't about being perfect. It's about standing together when things fall apart. That trait may matter more long-term than arm strength or raw athletic ability. When asked about handling the emotional swing from his best game one week to a disaster the next, Sanders delivered another revealing answer. He said he's the same person no matter the result. Wins don't inflate him, losses don't crush him. That emotional balance is critical at quarterback. Sanders explained that every week is the same challenge. Learn from what happened and be better the next time. He refuses to ride the highs or spiral in the lows, and that steadiness is exactly what allows quarterbacks to survive in this league. Once you get too high after wins or too low after losses, consistency disappears. Sanders' simple mindset shows he understands the relentless nature of the NFL. There's no time to sulk, no time to celebrate for long. Another opponent is always right around the corner, and preparation never stops. Sanders clearly understands this, and it shows a level of mental maturity that even some veteran quarterbacks never fully develop. He gets what the job demands. Kevin Stefanski confirming that Sanders will remain the starter for the rest of the season brings much needed stability even if the on-field results haven't been consistent. That commitment matters. A young quarterback shouldn't be playing while constantly worrying that one bad throw or one rough loss will land him on the bench. By backing Sanders publicly, Stefanski has created a situation where the rookie can make mistakes, take chances, and grow without feeling like his job is on the line every single week. From an organizational standpoint, it's the right move. Even if Stefanski's public messaging about Sanders' performances hasn't always lined up with reality, the decision itself provides clarity. It allows Sanders to focus on development instead of survival. The context of how Sanders became the starter matters too. He stepped into the role after Dylan Gabriel suffered a concussion, not because he dominated a training camp battle. That means he likely missed out on ideal preparation and consistent first-team reps before being thrown into live action. That doesn't excuse poor play, but it does explain some of the inconsistency and growing pains. Sanders is learning on the fly, getting real developmental reps in meaningful games instead of controlled practice settings, and that's a tough way to grow at quarterback. Now the challenge ramps up fast. The Buffalo Bills are next, and they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender with a dangerous offense and a defense that can punish mistakes. They're coming off a hard-fought win over the Patriots and have playoff positioning on the line, which means the urgency will be high. That makes makes things even tougher for a Browns team already trying to recover from an embarrassing loss. The hard truth is that things may get worse before they get better. The remaining schedule is loaded with strong opponents who will test every weakness in Cleveland's roster and coaching staff. Sanders is going to see more pressure, more complex defensive looks, and more high-stress moments where his inexperience gets exposed. How he handles those moments and whether he keeps his growth mindset through more adversity could shape not just the rest of this season, but the direction of his career. Those 5 sacks tell a deeper story. Each one reflects a breakdown in protection, a moment where the offensive line failed and left Sanders taking unnecessary punishment. Constant pressure forces rush throws, broken plays, and mental strain that adds up fast. If Sanders is going to develop the right way, he needs better protection. Asking a young quarterback to learn while constantly running for his life isn't sustainable, and it limits any real chance to see what he's capable of in this offense. The 3 interceptions that define Sanders' stat line deserve a closer look. Even without full film access, the context tells us a lot. At least one of those picks clearly came off a dropped pass by Jerry Jeudy, a turnover that wasn't on Sanders at all. That matters when evaluating what really happened. The other 2 interceptions likely came from a mix of pressure, rush decisions, and tough looks from the Bears' defense. Chicago consistently forced Sanders into uncomfortable spots, and understanding exactly why those plays broke down will be critical for his growth. Separating true mistakes from situations created by chaos around him is part of learning the position. The 0 touchdowns jump off the page in a bad way. It signals an offense that couldn't finish drives, especially when space tightened near the red zone. Touchdowns are the real currency in this league. You can move the ball, rack up yards, and still fail if you don't convert when it matters most. If Sanders is going to become the quarterback Cleveland hopes for, his red zone execution has to improve. Making plays when windows shrink and defenses tighten is what defines franchise quarterbacks. The Browns need him to take that next step sooner rather than later. That small smile Sanders flashed while owning the loss said more than words. It wasn't happiness, it was the expression of someone who understands how ugly the moment was and chose perspective over panic. That ability to stay grounded after a rough performance is rare for young quarterbacks. Many players would have been crushed by a game like this. Doubt creeps in fast at this level. Sanders, however, appears mentally built to reset, refocus, and prepare for what comes next without losing belief in himself. That resilience could end up being one of his greatest strengths. The learning curve he talked about is steep and unforgiving. The speed of the NFL, complex defenses, relentless pass rushers, and the precision required on every snap make quarterback the hardest job in pro sports. Sanders is climbing that mountain in real time. Every mistake and every success is captured on film and dissected by fans and analysts everywhere. That scrutiny adds another layer of pressure, but Sanders seems to accept it as part of the role he signed up for. He understands this is the cost of playing quarterback at the highest level. When asked about handling consecutive losses despite mixed personal performances, Sanders touched on something fundamental. Individual stats matter, but wins and losses matter more. A big stat line means nothing if the team loses, and an average day can still feel great if the team wins. That mindset is essential for long-term success. Sanders made it clear his belief in himself doesn't change based on results. A steady foundation that could help him weather the rough stretches that inevitably come with developing at this position. That belief is about to be tested hard over the coming weeks as the Browns run into tougher opponents and likely stack up more losses. Keeping confidence intact while losing takes real mental strength. Plenty of talented quarterbacks didn't fail because of skill, but because their confidence cracked under pressure. Sanders saying he'll continue believing in himself no matter what is encouraging. But the real test comes after more setbacks, tougher games, and moments where doubt starts whispering in the background. Browns fans need to understand this development process won't be smooth or predictable. There will be more ugly games like Chicago mixed in with flashes of promise like Tennessee. What matters most is the long-term direction. Is Sanders learning? Is he adjusting? Is the overall trend slowly moving forward instead of backward? One bad game doesn't define a rookie still learning the position. That said, repeated inconsistency and fundamental mistakes would raise real concerns. At some point, progress has to show up. The Browns believed Sanders could be their answer, and every game adds another piece to that evaluation. The matchup against Buffalo is another major checkpoint. Can Sanders respond after embarrassment and compete against an elite opponent? Can he stay mentally tough, fight through adversity, and show growth even if the odds are stacked against him? If you want to keep following Sanders' journey and everything unfolding in Cleveland, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more honest breakdowns and real football conversations.